Stephen, and I want to share a lot of my earlier designs with you today because I dove into the vault of the Westknits patterns and I put together a classics collection. So I pulled some of my favorite earlier designs, and now you can get them all together as an ebook, or you can get these new individual PDF patterns with the patterns revamped and reknit in Westwool yarns. So this is the clockwork scarf, which uses 2 colors. And what you will notice from a lot of these earlier designs is they're not as massive because I just didn't have as much yarn then. And this was also before the crazy speckled and mohair craze, and I didn't have any mohair or speckles at the time. So a lot of these designs were more crisp and architectural and smaller sizes. So I really love the details and the shapes like clockwork. And you'll notice a similar arched shape to Gillis. This was one of my first lace shawls that I ever designed. So in this Westknits Classics collection, you're going to see a lot of accessories, a lot of shawls and scarves like Gillis, and these arched shapes I find just rest perfectly over the shoulders. So what you'll find in these classic designs are some ideas and some construction shaping methods like short rows that later crept into some designs you're seeing now from the newer Westknit shawls, but this is where they all started. Spectra, I designed this about 8 or 9 years ago, and this was a really fun scarf because you only need 1 skein of the main color and 1 ball of a self-striping or an ombre gradient yarn, like this Bilum Lolly. So I'll tag all the yarn and pattern information in the description box down below. But this is 1 skein of Westwool Bicycle with this ombre, super smooth gradient yarn from Bilum. So I love the Spectra scarf. It's really decorative and playful, and it doesn't take very long to knit. So it's a fun practice for short rows. You'll also find a couple shawls like Earth and Sky. This was one of my first triangular shawls, and it was also the very first Westknits mystery shawl. And I think it stands the test of time because I kept it simple enough. So it has a little bit of intarsia to get those color blocks in the center, and then some nice simple stockinette and garter stitch stripes using 3 colors. Okay, I couldn't resist adding a few speckles to this collection. So this is the Pearl Break shawl done entirely in garter stitch, and this uses 1 skein of Westwool Bicycle together with 3 speckled yarns from Garn Stories, or whatever dyer that you'd like to use with your solid yarn. So 4 skeins total. This is probably the biggest shawl in the Westknits Classics collection, the Pearl Break. But if you want to make it smaller, you can just bind off earlier because it's top down. So you can customize the size of that. You'll also find some texture and cables and color work. This is the cabled Moose River cowl from one of my early book collections. So I don't do too much cabling, but when I did, I got into a cable kick several years ago. This was about 7, 8 years ago, and I did a reversible cable. So it looks just as good on the inside as it does on the outside. So that's the Moose River cowl, and I put some hats in the collection as well. So the Westknits Classics collection, you can get this on Ravelry or on gumroad.com/Westknits, the whole ebook, and it has all these hats in it. The Dustland hat with just 1 skein of Westwool Tandem, and the Vindschiff hat. This is also a 1 skein hat project. A really good gift knit. It goes really quick, and give it to a friend, and if they lose it, it didn't take that much time to knit. I once made a sweater for a friend of mine, and my brother tried it on, and he said, "I love this. Can you make me a sweater?" And I was actually thinking about it. Maybe I'll knit my brother a sweater. And then the next sentence out of his mouth was, "It would be great for running in the morning." And I've never knit him a hand knit sweater since then. You don't go running in hand knit sweaters. So I'm gonna knit that brother a hat, okay? They won't, if they mess that up or felt it, that's not a sweater's worth of knitting. So I have a couple more. Let's see, there's the Prowl shawl. This is one of the other DK weight shawls in the collection, and just 3 skeins of a color work for this shawl. And we have the Gillis. This is another red version of that shawl. And there's like a poncho cape thing too. So there's about 10 patterns in the Westknits Classics collection. And I reknit them all in Westwool, so you can find a lot of kits for all of these designs and some really fun color ideas at stephenandpenelope.com to knit these classic designs. All of the patterns in the Westknits Classics collection are knit with our Westwool bicycle yarn, which is a 2-ply yarn in fingering weight, or our thicker tandem. Tandem is our DK weight yarn. They're the same type of wool, but the bicycle is fingering weight and the tandem is DK weight. Both yarns have 90% Falkland merino, so it's super soft next to the skin, really good for scarves and shawls, and it comes in a big rainbow array of colors. You'll notice it says 10% Texel. Texel is a breed of sheep originating from the Netherlands, and it's a bit more of a toothy, crisp yarn. So it gives a little bite and structure to the wool, but that 90% merino makes sure it stays really lofty and really soft. Both the tandem and the bicycle are non-superwash yarns. So when you knit your Westknits Classics patterns, you're going to want to hand wash all of these designs. Just soak them in water with a little wool wash and lay them flat to dry. This is the Dustland hat. What I love about the Dustland hat is it's really easy to knit and very addicting because each section changes stitch patterns. So you can experiment with different knit purl patterns and you have this textural one skein DK weight project. There are also some matching mitts in the collection. These are the Dustland mitts that are nice and long and slouchy. These are really great for biking, or you can knit and keep your hands warm. I use them for typing and biking the most, so you can keep those fingers free. Usually they're knitting. So you just need a skein of Westwool bicycle to knit the Dustland mitts, and it uses that same texture as the hat. It could be fun to do a matchy-matchy set, or you could do coordinating colors of bicycle for the mitts and tandem for the hat. The clockwork scarf is also really easy to knit because it's mostly garter stitch with simple slip stitches. And this is how it looks like on the back. Those little slip stitch ladders float along the wrong side. You only need one skein of each color. So you could choose a light as your main color and maybe a color pop for your contrast color. This sample used our dark Norway colorway as the main and our light glass colorway as the contrast. What about this? You could do a dark blue and a light blue. That would be very crisp. And it also goes pretty quick to knit because it's only one skein of each color. This is the Gillis Shawl, and it is a DK weight project in lace. So the DK weight tandem really makes crisp columns in those lace eyelets. It's knit top down from the edge here all the way to the diamond border. And it has these fun garter stitch ridges which mark the increase locations. So just follow the pattern and it's going to be quite magical as you see the shape and the architecture unfold for the Gillis Shawl. 3 skeins of Westwool tandem made this red version. This is the berry colorway. If you want to make it extra fluffy, you could hold a strand of glow hair together with the tandem. This is our Westwool glow hair. It's a lace weight mohair silk. So if you wanted to make this shawl a little bit more fluffy and soft, just hold one strand of mohair, one strand of tandem, and you'll get this frothy, fluffy fabric for Gillis. If you want that mohair version, you're going to need the 3 skeins of tandem and 2 skeins of glow hair. Here's a close-up texture glimpse of a few other patterns in the collection. The Moose River cowl is all cables and reversible cables. So you can wear this project inside, outside. They're ribbed cables and honeycomb cables, so it doesn't matter which is right or wrong. It's a really fun project also with 3 skeins of Westwool tandem. 3 skeins of tandem will also make the Prowl shawl. This is a really simple knit purl shawl. It keeps the knitting interesting with that zigzag knit purl pattern, but just 3 skeins of DK weight yarn, so the shawl doesn't take too long to knit. The fingering weight shawls like Earth and Sky can take a little bit longer with that finer gauge, but prowl is done in DK weight yarn, really thick and quick, with 3 skeins of tandem. This is probably the most interesting texture, I think, in the collection. Batade. This is like a poncho, cowl, cape type of design, knit in the round. And you could wear this in front. I like to wear this off to the side on one shoulder for an asymmetrical drape. And these are welts. So you can learn how to do the welts with the batade pattern. It's a really simple technique that you get by folding the fabric, and it makes this little pleat pucker in the fabric. Really textural and really fun to knit. The Earth and Sky has a sweet spot in my shawl knitting history because it was the very first Westknits mystery shawl using 3 colors of yarn, color A, B, and C. I used the cornflower colorway as color A, pebble as color B, and mouse as color C. I think this is a really good go-to palette to work with whenever you have a light color, a medium color, and a dark color in your palette. Light, medium, dark, that means you're going to get a really crisp, balanced contrast in your shawl fabric. If you wanted to get that with a different color family, you could try the pinks and purples with the light, medium, and dark in the purple family. Or what if we did that with some warm, earthy shades? These are all a little bit darker, so I think this is really beautiful and harmonious for an Earth and Sky. But if you want to exaggerate the contrast a little bit more, I would do something like this. Get something a little bit lighter in there. Or maybe that, I'm liking this better with the cardamom orange. This is our white peach colorway and truffle. That would make a beautiful Earth and Sky. Well, thanks for watching. I loved sharing these classic designs because each one was like a moment in Westknits history where I learned how to do lace, or I learned how to do slip stitches and put it in a pattern. So they're very beginner friendly, and you can learn new things along with me as I learned them when I did the designs. And if you want any of the yarns, we have all the colors linked down below at stephenandpenelope.com. You'll find all of our Westwool yarns and a bunch of kits to put those palettes together for you for a lot of the shawls and scarves. So can't wait to see what you do with these classic designs, and I'll see you in the next video.